Hi all and welcome to Excel Basics Plus. Today's video we are looking at tables. Now, tables can be used in a myriad of different ways. They're fantastic for grouping your data together into ranges and then referencing that data or being able to filter the data so that you can find things a lot easier. If you remember in our last session, I think we were looking at the cricket players and the dues that they had to pay and which team that they would actually be in. Now, what we're going to do first is have a look at creating a table. Now, tables are very easy to create. There's a couple of ways you can do it. You can click in the cell. So we're actually just going to create a table here because I want to reference this data in a formula to work out what the actual due payable is by the team. So you can highlight all of the data in the range that you want to create the table. Now, if you've got heaps of data and we look at we look at all the cricket players, there's a lot of data there. That means we're going to have to actually, make sure that we're getting all of the data in. There's a lot easier way. Just click the top left cell of the data that you've got. Now, it is going to look for a data set and it's going to assume that the data set is right, but it's going to ask you first. So what we're going to do is we can click on Format as a Table. That's in our Home tab on the ribbon. We can click on Format as Table and we can actually choose which design we want for our table. Now, there's another quick way of doing it. Whilst you're in that cell I4, that's the top left cell for all of the data we're looking at. You can hit the Control key and the T key at the same time, and it actually goes to search for your data. You can see the marching ants is around our data, and it tells us in our Create Table window here, where is the data for your table? I4 to K8. And my data has headers. You can uncheck that if you don't have headers in your data, and it will actually create a header called column 1, column 2, column 3, and so on. You can then change the names of those headers if need be. We've got headers, so we're not going to remove that tick from there. And we're going to press OK. We now have the standard blue and white table. Now, here's the next piece. This is a range of cells, and it's currently named Table 1. So we're in Table Design tab now in our ribbon, and the table name is Table 1. I'm actually going to change that name and I'm going to call it TBL and we'll call it dues because it's the payable that each player has to pay to be part of that team. So TBL dues and then I hit enter and that's now named that range as a table so that we can reference it when we put in a formula into this column here. Straight away, whilst we're still in table design, you can still go in and you can change the colors. There's so many different options you can choose, and you can also create a new table style. So I'm just going to go for the plain boring, and I'm going to go the orange, orange and white. Now the other thing here you can do is you can total. Now, once again, still in our table design, you can actually see the total row here. Click on that, and it adds a total row. Now, this isn't great data to be totaling because these are just the due amounts by team. So we can actually have none. There's a little drop down arrow on the total row on each cell. So we're going to say none there. But what we can say is we can do a count. So we can count and there's 4 items in there and we know that. From there, we can always go back to our home cell and we can center that if need be. So that's how easy it is to create a table. Now, what we can now do is we can now reference this table by using a formula in here, because now what we want to do is we want to find out what is the due amount for Abigail. And Abigail is in the under 25s team, so we know by looking that it's $25. But we'll have a look. There's 40 people in this list. Now, this is just one list. Imagine if you had 200 players and you had to go one by one and update their dues. So in this case, what we can actually do now is we can put in a quick VLOOKUP formula. equals VLOOKUP. And the lookup value will be the team type, because that's what we're looking up in here. And the table array that we're now looking for is actually the team and the dues. Why? Because in a VLOOKUP, the very first column in the range that we're looking into must contain the lookup value that we're looking for. So we've now said in that range table dues, team to dues 2, we want to look at what is the result out of column 2, which is the dues amount. And we want the exact amount, so we're going to say false and close bracket. Straight away, $25 comes up. And I've just removed the column I because we had that as the index and match lookup, where we had to have the dues amount in that left-hand side next to team, just to show that the VLOOKUP only looks to the right of data. So I've just removed that because I want to show you we can actually change our formula. Before we actually selected the team and the dues amount because we had another column here. Now remember with VLOOKUP, the lookup has to be the very first cell in the data that you're looking up. Now, we now just have the team and the dues. So let's have a look at changing this formula. Let's say equals VLOOKUP. We want to look up the team, comma, and now, as I move my mouse across to the top corner here, you can now see that there's a black arrow on an angle pointing to that table. If I click, it instantly selects the table. Or you can type it in, TBL dues, because that's what we called it. That is now the range that we're looking up, and the data that we're looking up, the team name, is in the first column. So VLOOKUP will work because the entire table starts with the team. Now we can have a pile of other data to the right here that we might be looking up, and that is why it's good to use the table name. Comma, 2, comma, false, because we're looking up the second column and we want the exact result. Straight away, we double click this all the whole way down, and we can now see that it is picked up. Under 18s is $20, $35 here for the over 40s, and so on. So we know the formula works. Now the next part is that we've actually been using E5, for instance, in this formula to look up the team name. Well, what if we create a table with all of this data? Now, once again, I'll do Control T. It's selected the data for me. It goes all the way down to F44, and I press OK. It's created a table. Let's change the color, and I don't know, let's go yellow this time. In actual fact, let's change it to something that everyone can see, and let's go the black one. That'll do. Black and white. Now, we've still got that formula in there. VLOOKUP E5 table dues 2, comma, false. I'm going to take that formula out. And I'm actually going to change this now and say equals VLOOKUP, still doing a VLOOKUP, and we're looking up the team value here, but now it's actually put in the header name. It's now saying look up the team value instead of E5. It's now naming that column and that particular cell at team. So if we click on that one, you can actually see it's table 2 because we haven't actually named this table, but it's looking at the headers and it's looking at the team value in the headers. We obviously want that and comma. And once again, we're going to do the little arrow on the angle, selects the entire table, table dues, comma 2, comma false for the exact result. Press enter. It now pre-fills all values in that table for that formula. Now, that's a default. If you don't want it to do that, you can actually click on the little window there and undo calculated column, and you can actually tell it to stop creating calculated columns if you don't want calculated columns. Now, in this case, we do, so it's nice and easy, but it's a lot quicker doing it that way than having to create new formulas and drag them down and all that, it automatically pre-fills for you. So that's, I guess, the crux of how we can create tables and why we actually have, why there are some benefits in using them. The next piece, of course, is that we can actually filter by individuals. So if we just suddenly wanted to look up Chloe, we've actually got to unselect all to start with. So we click the select all button so that it's cleared. We find Chloe and we press OK. That now just gives us Chloe, and we can see that she's 23, so she's in the under 25s, and she owes $25. We click back on the filter, and we can clear that filter. Let's have a look at the total over 40s team. So we unselect all, we click on the over 40s, and we press OK. And once again, straight away, we can see Benjamin and Levi are the only two people in the over 40s team, and they each owe $35. And we can once again click on that and clear the filter from team. We can even sort. So we can sort by oldest to newest. And straight away, it's picking up the date of birth as being the oldest. We could have sorted largest to smallest by age, and it would have given us the same result. Oldest to newest by date gives us a much closer look. However, straight away we can then go through and we'll even see it's all the over 40s, the under 40s, then the under 25s, and so on. So there's so many different ways you can slice and dice just using the filters on here. I hope that's given you some insight into the power of what tables can do for you. There are more videos coming on tables and pivot tables as well. Pivot tables can slice and dice your data even more and is great for large sets of data when you're trying to pinpoint certain aspects within your data. For now, keep practicing. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, turn on those notifications so that you see when the new videos are dropping. Have fun.